So for this lesson, we're going to look at numbers. Numbers work just like you would expect with Python. You're able to perform all sorts of mathematical calculations on the variables if a number, either an integer or a float, is saved within. There are a few items that are slightly different with Python. So you can do all of the basic operations with integers, and everything should behave as you expect. Addition, subtraction, multiplication, using the asterisk, and division uses a forward slash, which is down by the question mark, by the shift key. We can do all these different calculations, and we can display information using variables. We can save numbers into variables, either integers or floats. But you can save integers into variables and then perform calculations on the variables. So you can let the user input some numbers as well. And it follows the order of operations, which means that parentheses will take the priority, and then multiplication, division, addition, and subtraction. So you have an exponent. So those are the 5 different mathematical operations. And so in this example, multiplication will be handled first because it takes a higher priority over any kind of addition. And so in this case, it's going to be the multiplication first, and then it's going to add 2 to the end of that. In the next example, we have parentheses, and it's going to handle parentheses first and then do the multiplication afterwards. So it does the calculation 2 plus 3, or 5, times 4 is 20, where this one is 12 plus 2 is 14. So we have to remember our order of operations when we're handling numbers. And integers are just numbers, 1, 2, 3, 4, -1, -2, -3, -4, just a whole number. A float is also known as a floating point number, and this refers to any number that has a decimal point. Most of the time, you can think of those as anything with a decimal that's going to have some kind of digit coming after that decimal point. So they have an example here. A normal one, 0.1 plus 0.1 is going to equal 0.2. And they have a couple of interesting results with different math that is handling a float. And sometimes you get one that has a very, very long number. And so if I, for a demonstration purposes, if I go into my Python, I go to idle, and I want to make a new file. And this new file, shell's in front, there we go. I'm going to say print 0.1 plus 0.2. And I'm going to save this because this is less than 1.3. I'm going to save this as, on the bottom here, right here, I want to save this as my last name dash Python 1.3 in numbers. So if I come over here, I'm going to save as Python 1, forgot it, Miller dash Python 1.3 numbers. And again, we want to make sure we're saving this into the correct folder. In this case, it's unit 1, the same one we set up before. I hit save. It should save that file. And then if I go up here to run and run my module, you'll see that it'll have a different kind of number. It has 3 and then a whole bunch of zeros and then a 4 at the very end. And that's just because of the way that the computer handles those numbers. And as it does the addition, it comes up with a very, very, very detailed number. Again, if I change this just to a 0.1, hit save, Command S will save it, or if I had try to run it without saving, it's going to say we need to save. I click OK, and it's going to say 0.4 because 0.1 plus 0.3 is equal to 0.4. So that is a float, and for some reason the computer calculates that and gives a very, very long decimal part. So a The big thing to remember is that an integer is just a whole number. A whole number does not have a decimal part. A float has a decimal part, and that's just what to remember. So here is the same long decimal part with a multiplication operation. So if I bounce in here and I say 3 times 0.01, save it. I'm going to run this module, and you'll see that it comes up with the same number right here. So there are a couple different practice opportunities here in this lesson. You're going to create a program that prints the results out of at least one calculation for each of these different operations. One thing I didn't explain up at the top is that an exponent, or a square, a number time itself, in order to make that happen, we have to do a times times, or an asterisk asterisk, star star, whatever you want to call that. But you're going to do this twice, and instead of multiplying those two together, it's going to take 3 times itself twice. And so if I go to idle, just as a demonstration, if I say 3 asterisk asterisk 2, hit save, it should take 3 times itself, and the result should be 9. Right there. If I take 3 and I take it to the third power, or 3 times itself, we should end up with 27. Because 3 times 3 is 9, times 3 is 27. So that's the exponent. So it's 3 to the third power, 3 to the fourth power. This is 3 to the second power. So you can do that, that calculation as well. So your example practice down here at the bottom, the first one is going to be arithmetic. You're going to come up with a program that prints out each one of these based on that first example at the top. The second one, you're going to do the order of operations. You're going to find a calculation, like addition and then multiplication, that depends on that order of operations being followed. And then you're going to print using parentheses to force a different version of order of operations. So just like the example was up here, you're going to print these in, print out the regular standard order of operations, and then you're going to come up with your own order by adding your own numbers in there and changing the order of operations using parentheses. Practice number 3, you saw that 0.1 plus 0.2 equals 0.3 with a whole bunch of zeros after it and a 4, and you're going to find at least one other calculation that results in a very long decimal just like that one. So you're going to have to play around with some numbers until you get a result that is similar to this. And then the last one, you're going to store the results of 5 different calculations in separate variables, and you want to use the operation at least once. And then you're going to print, it's going to look very similar to this, except for instead of just saying print 2 plus 3, you're going to say var1 equals 2, var2 equals 3, print, or total equals var1 plus var2, and then you're going to use it in a sentence that says the result of the calculation 5 plus 7 is 12. So in this case, it would actually take the variable, whatever the number here is. I guess you could just store the variable right here and then display the variable at the very end. So you're going to save those calculations into a different variable. So 2 plus 3 into var1. And then at the very end, it'll say the result of this calculation is 5 plus 7 is 12, which is the variable 1. And you can use concatenation like we did in the string unit to do that one. Remember also that as you are going through your program, that after you finish a practice section, you want to add a triple quote to comment out that project or that practice section, and then you can continue with the next one, 2 plus whatever. So you can save that one and have it comment out so we don't actually see this in the running of the code. So you're going to complete that one, and this is getting saved as your last name and then Python 1.3 numbers. That's your assignment for this one. If you have any questions, please let me know.